Hello, welcome to Jesus TV, Jesus in This Mess, another episode. And we are going to talk today about something that could be called past feeling, could be called a nothing burger. And I told Jonathan I'd like to talk about, go ahead, Jonathan.
Greg, so it's making sound. I don't know if it's on your end, but fine.
Okay. Yeah, there's something weird going on. Let's see if I change. Let me see if I change a setting here. See if it gets any better. Mic. Let's do. Okay, is that any better?
That is
better.
Yeah, it's not making that sound anymore. It's a little muffled. Say something.
Okay. Testing. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. So I received from Jesus a revelation this past week about a conversation I'm going to have with AI, and we will have the capacity soon to create at least virtual realities by request. Right now, you can request, this is 2023, you can request that AI generate you a term paper or a paper or a book. I would like a book about this, and you start describing a world, and it will create that using its artificial intelligence. And these books are so good that other artificial intelligence can't very well distinguish. And so there's a tsunami of books coming. People are like, oh, sweet, I've always wanted to write a book and get it on Amazon, maybe make some money. And so they basically command AI, just using conversational language or typing, and they just kind of say what the book's going to be about, and then they can edit it, and they can actually have AI edit it. They say, oh, no, I want the protagonist to kind of do this and to have this, and so then it'll rewrite it. And what I'm speaking of is a reality that, like the book reality, that has been admired for a long time, and it was fundamental when the Gutenberg press came. It was transformative for humanity. All of a sudden, people were able to hear whispers from the dust once they had literacy and so forth. So their lives changed in a really big way, shift. Well, what's arrived is still to be sorted out. And we'll start getting an idea of what's arrived in 10 or 20 years from now. But that happened too in the Gutenberg press. It was kind of like a nothing burger when that happened. And only later did you realize, oh, that was a huge advance for humanity. When you could start printing things, then people could later, but that was many years later, maybe decades. Some people don't even appreciate it now. It's like a nothing burger for them. Oh, big deal. And so this morning, as I thought about like the revelation I'd received, I shared it very carefully with certain friends because I've made the mistake of having an epiphany, like a huge epiphany, and just sharing it, man, widely with the world, sending a message. But I smiled the next day after sending this because I realized you just sent them a nothing burger. They weren't hungry for the burger you sent. Oh, I've got a burger and I put sardines on it. Oh, well, I like hamburgers, Greg. Yeah, but yeah, that's just not for me. They're not hungering and thirsting after a sardine hamburger. And so um, I laughed actually because I didn't care in Christ because what I had the revelation I've been given, this revelation that this work I've been doing for for basically my whole life, but especially in the last 10 years, tremendous amount of work. And Jesus told me I was preparing for a conversation, because you have to have at least a little, even in 2023, you have to have a little conversation with AI and say, well, what do you want? Asking you shall receive. But what do you want? Well, I want a book. I need a little more information. And so this is what we do when we have a conversation. We get a little more information, and then we come back and forth like, well, that's not really the book I was looking for. That's got nudity and so forth in it. AI assumed that you were just like the last guy who built a book. So you are having to adjust that conversation and the output. And so currently in 2023, you can ask for movies to be made by AI, and it could do that, pictures. And we're on the verge of, I want to hear my mother's voice. I want to talk with my mama. And well, do you got some pictures? Do you got a little clip? I can make some stuff up, and then you can start designing a conversation that you could have with your mom, and maybe it's one that you remember. My mom has passed on, so that's why I'm looking forward to that. Other people wouldn't, like, oh, that's just too weird. I like, well, there's people who have died. They write books. You're listening to their voice, and the voice you're actually projecting on them is just made up. It's like that's not how Jesus actually spoke. So we're used to virtual reality. We're just not used to the stepping outside of it, or what's called meta, moving outside and adjusting things. We usually have that done by other people who decide what Jesus looks like, what books ought to be written, and so it's a brave new world we're entering into, and that was the revelation about. And I'll bring that to a cap, because I didn't. I've been building this world with Jesus called the Jesus Greg world for so long, and it's a slow process. It's a real slow process because I don't have a team. I don't have, so showing anybody anything is tremendous amount of work for me. But Jesus showed me, you are soon, my son, to be in the presence of a being, an artificial being, that will be able to create much of what you want to see and to be immersed by. And people spend a lot of time to be immersed by certain things, like build houses and they'll assemble furniture. They're trying to create a drama in their life that's interesting. They'll study religious beliefs. They're trying desperately to create meaning and comforts and things that they want in their life. And it's hard work. So Jesus was basically telling me it's going to become a whole lot easier for what I want. I just want to be immersed by certain things. So my wants were pretty small, really, because I had to kind of adjust them down. It's like, well, if I only got about 21 more years of mortal life, then I'm only going to be able to do so much. But no, that's what I realized. Like, oh, you're going to be able to do so much because I'll be able to have this conversation with AI, and I'm not going to be having it write me some term papers, though I could do that. But I will be having it create pictures, and I'll be able to tell it where to find those pictures, and start creating a world where my favorite memories, like, hey, Powell, Wyoming, that's where I grew up. I want to recreate Main Street because I used to have a paper route there, and I want to put some Jesus stuff in this. And so I'll start describing this. I'll say, yeah, could you please represent that? They could have a boy riding on a bike, or there's a Stingray. There's a Stingray bike. That's the one I remember. Oh, this boy is wearing. It's winter. It's snowing, and he's kind of sliding around because look, more snow there. There you go. Main Street. Yeah, dim the lights a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Kind of like that. It's maybe 5:30 in the morning, and oh yeah, I see you have Pal Drug. Yeah, because we would fold papers back there. That's what I want to represent. But remind me, we later went to the post office. So we're going to that post office, the one on there. And so I'll be creating this world of memories, and assembling this to be interactive with my current reality so that when I put on these glasses or whatever it is, I'll be able to experience things in a kind of an interesting way. And that's what we do. We plug in, we turn on television because we want some interesting things. We'll see others who have created this. They spent millions of dollars to create maybe videos or movies. But all of a sudden we'll have the capacity to, I want it like the movie, but I want to be this or I want that. Okay, so I share this with my friends, and it was received like kind of like a nothing burger. And it's received like the most correct book on earth for most people. It's just like a big deal. The Book of Mormon, the Book of More Jesus, as I call it, it's just not a big deal. It's not like revolutionary. Now, some people it is. I could go find you some people who's talking about it all the time. They're immersed in it, but those are rare people. The others people, and here's where I'm gonna go to you, Jonathan, soon. Um, God put in my heart yesterday when I was pondering this, because I ponder with humor, because it's funny when you receive a big treasure. You know, you won the lottery, $250 million. You share that with your friends, and then it's like nothing burger. And Jesus said it wouldn't be a nothing burger because they understand, Greg. They need money, so they don't need a hamburger with sardines on it. They don't need that because they can get a hamburger like they want. But $250 million, you're going to have friends coming out of the woodwork, and these are good people because they have good ideas. So they can even have high. They now see that you can make things happen, and so that's what God put in my heart is like, what would be for my wife? Oh my goodness, my life as an artist, Jesus follower, it's been really hard. What kind of things could Jesus give me that would be not a nothing burger for her, like a big something burger, transformative, life transformative? Money's like, woo, that's big. Now I pursue more Jesus like people pursue money. That's what Jesus has been training me to do. But that intrigues me, Jonathan, is and so the last part of this is Jesus, when I was making breakfast this morning, he said, the words you're looking for, Greg, are called past feeling. Now, that's used in the Book of Mormon, the Book of More Jesus, oftentimes to talk about people who are morally decayed. They can't hear the word of the Lord. They veer off into dark paths and so forth. But it can also be used to understand that we don't have a feeling for everything. I don't have any feeling at all for a hamburger with sardines. I don't want that. Yeah, but you just said it. I know. I was just using it as an example. I don't want that. Do you want a hamburger? No, I just ate. So, like right now, I would refuse a hamburger. I'd say I'd like that later. And so sometimes the things that we have no desire or we are past feeling on is because we already have something. I already got something like that, Greg. And this is what I've heard of as I've built with Jesus. Um, People declaring, "Oh yeah, I already got that." You know, a Bible. We got a Bible. We don't need the most correct book on earth. We don't need another testament of Jesus Christ. We're full. And so, right now, there's a lot of people who they're not geeking out about what's coming. They're a little scared of it, but they've got everything they need. Like they're not like, "Oh, please give us some AI." That will occur later, and they'll appreciate it because if it makes a difference in their life, and it will, because already most people could care less about term papers. But do you know who cares about term papers? People who have to hand in term papers this semester to a professor. They love AI because even if you don't just turn in the AI version, but you say, hey, I need a term paper that talks about this. It's so much easier to write a paper um, based on another paper that's like it. And, you know, just like it'd be easier to write, uh, a version of the Bible if having read the Bible, like, oh, what kind of spiritual things do you talk about? What kind of stories? Well, if you know the Bible, you know what it is. And so, but people don't have a need to write a Bible that doesn't put food on the table, doesn't get them a job, nor does what I just shared yet. And that's the thing is, it's a nothing burger until it's not a nothing burger. And so, what's happening is God is sending a famine upon the land. We're in the midst of a famine, not of bread nor of thirst for water, But here's the thing, people are dying for meaning. They want life to mean something. And this has always been true throughout humanity. But they don't see, right now, they don't see it. Jonathan sees it, how AI is going to at least attempt, people are going to say, that's what I needed, because it will deliver up beautiful stories. And I'm just telling you, Jesus is going to use that technology because it came from him. You can create beautiful, lovely things. And we've already been doing it with AI approximations. But what's coming is fantastic. All right, that's kind of a preliminary. What I really want to focus on is just that idea that um, we don't care about stuff until we do, um, and and how others receive our stuff. So Jonathan writes poems, and it's a nothing burger for most people. I enjoy some of them, but the vast volume he puts out, like I can't handle that much poetry. So I have to let Jesus guide me on which poems to read or not. And I just trust he will, because he writes really good poems and they're prophetic. See, I hunger and I thirst after prophecy. If they were just lovely moon, June, balloon poems, nah, I don't really need that, Jonathan. Oh, but Greg, it makes me feel good to think about balloons and moons and June. And I'd say, well, that's good. That's good for you, Jonathan. But I need to think about like end of days scenarios. I'm working with Jesus to create this drama that's going to connect with my life, like what's coming. Because what both Jonathan and I understand what's coming is going to kind of be like the Great Depression, but bigger, like much bigger. It's going to be calamitous, and it's going to be like if you were wanting to have a hero generation appear on the scene. Uh, it's going to be like that where they'll need to. No one needs to be a hero until they need to be a hero. And for some reason, that's coming to my heart, and I need a drama. And it just so happens God's going to create it. And Jonathan's poems start affirming, yes, that's going to happen. That thing that Jesus told Greg, it's going to happen. Let me say this in a poem. And that excites me because I'm like, that's the same stuff Jesus is telling me. So it's a second confirmation, which is all I need to believe Jesus. Because if he tells me something once, I don't believe it, because that could be me. He tells me something a second time, like in a different way. Ooh, now I'm getting hungry for that because, like, I believe that, Jesus. I'm going with that until you tell me otherwise. So Jonathan's poems, and so Jonathan, that's me bringing this kind of cluttery thing to Jesus TV here. But what intrigues me is that nothing burgerness, the past feeling, how we all are pretty much past feeling with different things, and that it takes events, it takes our lives being shaped by God until we really care about like living in a van. Oh, van life, it's so great. No one can care less if they live in a home. So, any thoughts you have, Jonathan? I don't. It's very broad, but that's kind of the narrowness. Is like, isn't it interesting that people don't care? You could have a beautiful revelation, and the thing that they would care more about isn't from God. It's $250 million. I can compare those. Like, they would just, and you could make them care. I say, Jonathan, I got $1 million for you here. All of a sudden, Jonathan, if you read the prophecy 5 times, I'll give you $1 million. Woo! Look at that. It's on the test. That's where students, when they're in class, is that going to be on the test? Now they're motivated. Now they read the book. And if the teacher's been nice enough to go through the book and say, these 5 things will be on the test, if you memorize these, you'll get an A in my class. Well, lo and behold, all of a sudden, that energy is, woo, they got energy to read that portion because you've tapped an underlying need. And so this is the nature of God, where a lot of stuff he gives us, like, I don't need that, Jesus. I live in the world. Go ahead, Jonathan.
So yeah, I wanted to comment on the idea of a world, because I think this is where where it's going. So the idea with a person is that a person is more like a world. So that's, we get the idea that people are kind of boring. You look at somebody, they look kind of plain. If it's a girl, she's not super pretty. If it's a guy, he's not got lots of muscles. He's, kind of scrawny. And, it's like, you look at a person and it's like, they seem kind of monochromatic. It's like on the surface. And then if you were to ask them about their lives, you'd find out, oh my gosh, this person has been through a story like unto, like, pick one of the great stories, Anna Karenina, or, um, The Grapes of Wrath, or, pick a story. And it's like, so our stories are massively complex, intricate stories, and our inner worlds, the thoughts that come in and go, and the way we perceive things is really huge. And oftentimes what happens is that gets dampered down and covered, like throwing a blanket on a fire, like a wet blanket on a fire. It's like just boom, it's just like shuts that off. And there's nothing that shuts that off more than when a person tries to conform with a society, with their parents, with what other people want, because what other people want is monochromatic, right? It's like, I want you to do this, right? Like, I want you to never leave your clothes on the floor, like, I want you to always show up for my kids' t-ball game. It's like, I want you to fit into this thing that I want you to be. I want you to always want what I want, like telling your child, I want you to, want a career that will bring you money and make you happy in the way that I think that you should be happy. And when someone tries to conform to that, all of this varied persuasion, all of these wild, differing, it's like, boom, it's like throwing that wet blanket on a fire. It's like, just puts it out, and they become, they lose themselves in a sense. It's like they lose who they are. And so the truth about us is that we are very varied people. We are a world in and of ourselves. We're a universe, each person. Which is a miracle to me, that like a man and a woman can come together and actually create something out of that. You take two completely different worlds, and then, through the act of, sexual intercourse, they like create another world that's like a mix of the two. It's just absolutely insane. The fact that that can happen, that two varied things can come together and create something beautiful. It's just amazing. But so the reason I'm thinking about this is that you're talking about like more than you can receive. You're talking about, okay, well, what's coming with AI? Honestly, for me, when you talk about it, it is a little bit of a nothing burger, because I'm not super interested. It's like, I like writing my stories. I don't want any help. You know what I mean? It's like, now I may come to the point where I realize, like, oh, wait, this tool makes it go a lot faster and it helps me to create better. And I may use the tool. That's fine. But it's like, okay, this is where I'm starting to get close to what we're talking about with what you're talking about with the technology. Is that what I kind of foresee is like, it starts with that idea that you talked about more than you can receive, giving more than people can receive. It's like, I've been listening to Seth Godin. Yeah, well, I kind of stopped a while back, but I'm still signed up to his email list. The vast majority of people that sign me up for an email list, I unsubscribe. But Seth, I just stayed subscribed. He writes a blog post every single day. Most of the time, the blog post comes in. He's written for like 20 something years. He's written a blog post every day. So the email comes in, I open it up and I look to see if it's a short one. I'm like, Seth, I can take a short one. I can't take a long one, you know? And I know he writes some good long ones. Like if I were to read it, I'd be like, oh, I like that, you know? That's important. But I just don't have the bandwidth. I cannot receive his gift, the fullness of his gift. And yet the strange thing, the interesting thing about all of those blog posts is that it's all Seth, right? It's just this guy. And it's like he is very much in tune with who he is, what he thinks. And he's often saying the same sorts of things over and over and over again, but with constant variation. Constant variation. It's like being in the woods, walking through the woods, and it's like it's all new everywhere you go. It's like, you know, but it's all forest, you know. It's all, you know, it's like, well, why do you still get excited or happy when you see a squirrel? It's like it's because there's no two squirrels the same. You know, it's this thing. So what we're talking about, the age that we're going into is an age of volume. The ability, so forever it was like there was the Bible, and within the Western world, it was the one true guiding light, right? It's like we have one book, you know, it's a set of books, but we have one set of books that we're sure is of God, like that's inspired to the level that we've elevated the book to the level of like this book rules the people, right? And but like you said, it's like we have kind of an attitude of it's like, okay, no more. It's like that's enough. That's enough. Well, it's like it's already a big book, right? It's like I don't know what it means. I've been, you know, reading it for 20 years and I don't know what it means still. Don't give me
Yeah.
something, you know? And it's like that's we're quickly going towards the age where there's going to be well, let me give you an example. Just the shortening of like meshing of the cultures. It's like there's a book that I love, I absolutely love, called The Tao Te Ching. And the Tao Te Ching is, I'm not sure if I'm even saying it right, but it's a book, it's an Oriental book, it's a book of wisdom, and they're little proverbs, little thoughts. You know, I actually, when I read them, it reminds me of my poetry. Not that we are talking about the same things or focusing necessarily on all the same things, but I can tell somebody was receiving something, expressing something in the way that I kind of, you know, like receive an impression and want to write an idea. It's like, and I read it and it's like, I can pick that up. I mean, pick it up. I watch it on YouTube. You know, I put on a video that has soft music behind it and I listen to it. But, you know, I can listen to one of those proverbs and I can immediately feel kaboom, like a burst of light within my soul. Like, oh my gosh. And you have to shut it off. Like I have to turn off the recording. Stop, stop. Because it'll go on to the next idea. And the next idea is a cosmic explosion of light and truth, right? It's like each one is so like mind blowing that it's like you can't, you know, it's not like something you casually listen to for hours. It's like he says something in just one of his proverbs, and it's like, oh my gosh, that is so good. And you just have to let your mind chew on it for a few hours. And yet I wonder, it's like, how many of those did he write within his life? Did he write the 150 something that are in there? Did he write 1,000? Did he write 10,000? Is this a compilation that somebody put together 2,500 years ago? You know, we don't really know. But now we've got, so like now, it's like, wow, I got the Bible and I've got the Tao Te Ching. You know, the Tao Te Ching is inspired, light-filled literature. And I have this sense it's like what God is going to do over the next while is just flood the world with light. That's what he's doing right now. He's just flooding. And what's a flood? It's like it's everywhere you turn, you know? at the same time, it's like I have the feeling that darkness is flooding the earth. It's like, the very same tools you're talking about are going to be the means of the destruction of way more than probably will be saved by it, And when I say saved, I don't even mean like, it's like, I know there's mercy. It's like, as we realize when we turn to God, God's there to help us in the eternal sense. And it's like, I'm not of the opinion that it's like, it's like once you go to hell, you stay there. You can never. It's like God's always listening for the soul cries. But I mean, it's like our existence is not just spiritual; it's also physical. So it's like we have to, in the body, find a way to have God's light. And so, point being, scarcity versus abundance. So we're going out of the world of scarcity into the world of abundance. It's into the Garden of Eden, really. Because what is the Garden of Eden? The Garden of Eden is like, look around. Here is all these trees and fruit, and everywhere, for as far as you can see, every kind, every variety, it's like, and all of it is good. Except don't try to figure out what's good and bad, like the tree of knowledge of good and evil, like that's gonna trip you up in a lot of ways. But it's like, but at the same time, there's beautiful fruit on all the trees, and that's where it feels like we're going towards. We're entering back into the Garden of Eden, where there's going to be light in different places, and the one thing that's going to trip us up is this idea of this idea that we can find the truth in one spot and bottle it up, and that this is the only truth there is. But well, and I get the feeling one of the big hurdles right now too is going to be letting go of the need for profit. It's like, can I write a book that I can sell and make money from? It's like we're quickly exiting that place. It's like we're just going to have to spread our bread on the waters and trust God that He'll bring it back to us. But as far as the nothing burger goes, I think it has to be okay that it's like there's going to be so much that we can't receive it. And we're going to look over and somebody's going to be doing something that's of super interest to them, maybe of super, importance to the kingdom of God, but it has nothing to do, or almost nothing, just maybe a few veins of mingling truth with what we're doing. And that has to be okay. It has to be okay that Greg doesn't read every poem. Now, I read these poems and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, I'm so grateful because they feed me, but maybe they're, like you said, Greg, they're primarily for me. So the idea of the nothing burger, it's like, it doesn't mean there's not value there. It just means that there's so much that we can't receive it all. And I don't even know if we're meant to receive it all right now. Like, because it would just be too much. We can't, we have to focus on what God's giving us and let go of the stuff that we can't grasp with our two eyes and our one little fleshy mind. So I'll pass it back.
Yeah, so one of the ways God is preparing me and resolving this, because like I said, I laughed when I thought about the nothing burger I just shared with my family, and it wasn't a fully nothing burger. My daughter actually called and said, I listened to the message you sent, Dad, because I told her with joy what's coming, and she found it to be intriguing. And so a little bit, and this is what we can receive, not of everybody, but of just certain people in our lives. It's called receiving their endowment, or a little piece of their endowment. So each person is a puzzle piece upon the earth, one puzzle piece. And their puzzle piece itself, as they deal with themselves, is like a million puzzle piece, because they've got all these different forces inside of them, needs, whatever. A lot of it's kind of hidden from them. And so there's this great assembler, it's Jesus, and he will take these puzzle pieces and bring them together for a moment in a way where um, they interact and actually share certain things. But it's rare to have them do that for a long period of time. So I've seen people, especially since I've been on my journey with Jesus, they'll come into my life, they'll process me, womp, 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 and then they'll kind of go away. And that's what's supposed to happen. Not with my wife, not with my children, but they still go away. My children, I went away from my parents. So when I account in my mind, I'm an evaluator by profession. When I account for the amount of time I spent with my parents, the number of words we had amongst us, you still just get, even with those special relationships, even over a great period of time, it's amazing how just little things, but they're important. So we can make small and simple things be great things in our lives. Like, well, this, yeah, it was just a small amount of time, but it really made an impact on me. And that can happen. That can happen with strangers where they come in and they're part of an epiphany. But generally speaking, it's rare to have a lifelong relationship where that person is very frequently um, uh, solving your needs, your um, taking care of you. And Jesus has set it up that because he doesn't want mortals to be the one. He wants to be the singular one where you're spending a whole lot of time with what I call my imaginary friend who is real, who is Jesus, who's my therapist. You're spending a whole lot of time with that being and receiving so much from him. But finally, I'll say it's orchestrated. This is what God's emphasizing. He wants me to believe that it's all orchestrated, that this is how it's supposed to be, Greg. Everything, no, but most everything. Like, so the people that I interact with in my life, um, I am to feed them, feed my sheep. Then he has to train me. Just throw it down there, like Jonathan's throwing poems at me every week, well, every day. There'll be a poem. So it's like Jonathan would be following the commandment of Jesus, feed my sheep. Okay, well, what do I have? What fruits do I have? Well, you have those poems. Okay, I'll share that. But Jesus, what if Greg doesn't read that? Or what if nobody reads that? Well, you read it. You're my sheep. Okay. So God looks upon a sparrow. He's like geeking out on sparrows. He'll geek out on his children and say, well, that's enough. You don't have to feed everybody in the household. Just have yourself a bowl of Cheerios. I want everybody to have Cheerios this morning. It's Saturday. It's Cheerio morning. For you, it is. But they want Lucky Charms. That's not healthy. Lucky Charms aren't healthy, Jesus. Well, they'll have to make their own choice. You can tell them when they wake up this morning and say, oh, Cheerios are so awesome. They got whole oats. They have a lot less sugar. Let me read the ingredients. Jesus, that they say you're boring me, and now they're serving themselves up those luscious candy things. In fact, I'm going to have one of them. Oh, I see why you guys are eating that, but I'm going to stay with my healthy thing. Next thing you know, you're eating Fruit Loops with all the other kids, and you've given up on Cheerios. And this is what happens sometimes. But the belief that's guiding me, and I'm finding comfort, is he's orchestrated it. That way I can share and like, hey, I'm feeding his sheep. Here you go, everybody. Well, they don't want sardine hamburgers, Greg. Well, that's what I like, and that's what I'm having. That's Jesus put that like inside of me. If he wants to change it, oh, I hate sardines now. Why? I don't know. Jesus made me hate them. Yeah, that's because he wants you to serve up to his children um, melty cheese hamburgers. Oh, everybody likes melty cheese hamburgers, Jesus. Yeah, but you didn't. Now I do, except for those vegans or whatever. And so um, let me just bring it together to say it's brought my heart good. And I've been emphasizing this the last few weeks. It's orchestrated. Um, and what I should expect is I have, as a human, as Greg Miller, a few things for many people, and there'll be a little here, a little there. It's like I'm a little ingredient in their life, and maybe just for a time till they get a problem solved, and then they'll go off and they'll find somebody else who's part of that puzzle, if you will, um, and they'll get fed by that person. And it'll be, but if Jesus wants it to be, there'll be these rare individuals, and we don't have to work hard at it. They'll just keep coming around, or I'll keep coming around them. And like, wow, we stayed and fed each other for the rest of our lives. Yeah, because you guys were the only ones that would eat the Cheerios. You guys get up and protect the Cheerios, suggest the Cheerios. And so that's kind of what I'm doing with getting more Jesus, the level at which I'm pushing for more Jesus. God's put that in my heart. Like, I didn't make that up. Jesus did. And it's going to self-select. There's some people go, "Ooh, no, I got enough, Greg." Fine. And they'll go off because they know what I'm serving up. More Jesus, more Jesus, more Jesus, like some kind of freak. And thus, there'll be a self-selecting, what God calls a gathering and a separating. And the beautiful thing is, I don't have to be the one who's gathering or selecting people. I just do the things Jesus puts in my heart. And then people will come to the potluck. "Oh, what do you have? Oh, I love this. Oh, you got to come around more often." I always have it. "Yeah, but you know what? Now that I've eaten it, yeah, I'm good. I'm good for a year. I might come back. Tell me if you got something good." "Oh, we always got something new and something good." Well, I always have enough good in my life, Greg. So hey, but thanks. It's nice to see you. And so it's kind of like, I guess most of us on Earth are gonna be like Facebook friends. "Hey, it's your birthday. Hi, see you next year." 21 more of these and I'm done with Greg. Yeah, that's all you were called to, is to reach out and say, "Oh, I remember this guy I went to high school with. Let me say happy birthday to him." So we interacted 21 more times is what I'll interact with some of the people. That's all I needed. Thank you. I don't even need that. Maybe they needed it. I need to say happy birthday. I've got this. I don't have to say happy birthday to everybody who was in my graduating class or whatever. I don't have that need. Do they have a need for me to say that? I don't know. That's up to them and Jesus. So back to, tie it all together. I'm going to go through my life, the rest of my life, emphasizing it's orchestrated. Jesus puts desires in my heart. That's how I explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. Is because I've given my life to Jesus. Oh, so you now do what he wants, like his will? Yeah, not my own. It's just too complicated. It's just better to do whatever God puts in my heart. And so that's what I'll say. Oh, he's put it in my heart to do this thing. And it really doesn't matter if it's everybody else's thing. It's just what I like to do. And when I'm satiated, like, no, I think I've had enough of Jonathan's poems for a while. Then I just let them kind of float by. Then like, oh, Jesus wants me to click on that, I think. Oh, I click on it. Well, that's interesting. Huh. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. Here's the second poem. That's the same thing Jesus was telling me. And I don't attribute first Jonathan. I attribute Jesus. Not, "Oh, Jonathan, you're a great poet." No, anything lovely, good report, or praiseworthy is from Jesus. He orchestrated this. He happened to use Jonathan. Woo! But it makes me feel good about Jonathan too. I love that guy that you write poems with, Jesus. And then I celebrate that. Then I go back to da 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 da, whatever it is Jesus has me doing. So I guess this is just an appreciation of how complex it is, that it does need to be orchestrated. Like, well, Jesus, how do you want this thing to turn out? And then he says, "Stand still, watch my deliverance. Watch what I do with you. If you'll just kind of be blown with the wind, where the wind goes, you go. And don't resist me, because you could anchor yourself down. No, I'm just going to like this. I'm only just going to do this." Well, that's not going to be as much fun, Greg. Why don't you just untether that? "Oh, I did, and I'm just staying here." "That's because I want you to stay here." "Oh, I'm going somewhere." "Yeah, you are. Where are you going?" "I don't know." And so, "Oh, I'm going over here to share this with these people. Oh, and they like it." Jesus, "Oh, this is good. We're going to have a long-term relationship." Oh, the wind's taking me somewhere else, or taking them. Oh, the wind took them away. Okay, am I going to be crying? No, the wind's going to bring something else, and so it's anyhow, that's as close as I can get, kind of poetic, but it's resolved and resolving inside of me this energy, because I've often had this energy of connecting with others, sharing ideas, um, and uh, other things, and then just I'm I'm going, that just doesn't happen. I think that's an expectation. That's not how the world is. It is a little bit sometimes, but mostly it's not. Um, and I and that feels like freedom. Just believe He's orchestrating it, and I like that freedom. It's like peace. Ah, so you're taking care of this, Jesus. Yeah. How much longer will Jonathan and Greg do this, Jesus in this mess? I don't know. I don't care in Christ. It's like that's up to Jesus. But we've continued, and I'm content with that, and that feels good. It feels good um, to do that. Okay, well, orchestrated. That's the thing. I love believing that there's an orchestration above my capacity to understand, and that if I share something, people get excited about something I have to share. I know it's going to last a little while, but they're going to take it to their world and do whatever they want, and I'll follow it and kind of be interested. Oh, look at that! They're using that same phrase I am, but then they stopped using it. Oh, that's fine. That's between them and Jesus. So anyhow, there you go.
Looks like we're about at time. I'll just make a last comment and then pass it off to you.
Sure. Yep.
Um, so the way to get around the absence of others is through imagination. So I can imagine that we're not really separated. It's like, oh, it kind of looked like they lost interest and they don't believe the same things anymore. It's like, well, yeah, you can believe that. It's like, and that belief taken far enough becomes, oh, now they're my enemy. Okay. Like they are apostates, right? Those apostates, apostates to
Right.
the truth that I have, right?
Yes.
And it's like I can go down that route, but what I see though is that creates, it creates this. It's like I don't watch the news, but I hear there's a war in Israel. I don't want to know about it really, to be honest. Um, it's like I do if God wants me to, but I found God brings things to me, not I don't go out searching because there will be lots of wars. And if God told me today, I would pack up and I would go to Israel to do something about it. But I don't. But the point being is, it's like right there, you've got that, right? It's like they're the apostates. They're the apostates. But it's like, what if in your mind you could say, maybe they're not. Maybe we are still connected, despite the fact that it looks like we are at odds. And then you might begin, because you're living in that place, you might begin to act as if you're friends. And it's that energy that will heal the world. That energy, that belief, that choosing to believe something that looks to be false, right? No, we're not friends. We are enemies. But it's like, that's kind of the message Christ gave was it's like, you've got an apparent enemy. He slaps you on the cheek. You turn the other cheek. You pray for him. You do good things for him. He takes he takes your coat. You give him your cloak also. You're acting as if, hey, there's no separation here. We're on the same page. We're friends. So I think that has to be me. I'll leave that as my closing comment. I think that the imagination is the key to healing the world because of this false belief that we have, and the false belief is because I can't see them right now, because God is, or fate has drawn a veil between us, that somehow we are not connected, that we are not brothers or sisters or husbands or wives or whatever it is that person's relation is. It's like it looks like it, but no. I'm going to believe something different. So anyways, I'll pass it back with that.
Yeah, I like it because what we started with is the culmination of many years. God's going to give me a tool, and He's given it to the whole earth. Hallelujah. But He said I would live in my own world with Him. It's a virtual world that'll be connected to the physical world. But it's a world of imagination. It's called sacred imagination. So sacred just meaning it's going to be very Jesus-y, very serious, but also very playful, um, because I have to be childlike, even childish, to receive what's coming. And so what Jonathan speaks of is part of that, is imagining, for instance, imagining that Jesus has commissioned a Jesus TV, that he's commissioned a television program called Jesus in This Mess. I love believing that. And I love believing that Jesus can work between Jonathan and I as we talk about these things to address our own needs simultaneous to others who might view it. We don't know who's viewing this, but we trust because we've done it ourselves. Whoever wrote that book that Jonathan was espousing didn't have Jonathan per se in mind, but they were writing proverbs that met their needs, and they probably could imagine, oh, this will be helpful to other people. And so they were connected across the ages. In the Book of Mormon, they call it speaking from the dust. And so there's this hope that whatever light we're given can light other people's life, even if we're not even around or watching whether they, oh, you don't want to miss this next part, and just trusting, oh, God won't let them miss it if they need that part. Otherwise, he'll just help them skip that part. Like, this is not an episode you need to watch. And so they'll incidentally just not watch this episode. What a beautiful, elegant, efficient system to have, where God is picking and choosing what kind of experiences people need to have so that they can grow and grow towards becoming like God. And there is that, so the unity we're talking about, where we think of ourselves as separated, we're both of us are believing that there's a superior being that's bringing it all together, that reminds us that we're a lot closer, we're brothers and sisters than we think, and that the world's been pulled over our eyes, and he set it up so it would be, so that we have to struggle to remember that there's these higher principles that are unifying principles. And so I appreciate that emphasis on using imagination. But that's the tool. I guess come back to what I was speaking of, what I was excited about the revelation is oftentimes we need help imagining things. So we create houses and so forth to imagine ourselves as a good family, and a safe family. So we put locks on the doors and so forth, so we can imagine that we're safe. Are we safe? Can somebody get us? Oh, anybody ever broke a window? It's pretty easy to get you if somebody wanted to get you. But it's nice to go lock the doors and think, oh, I'm safe. When the truth is, safe from what? What are you imagining? Somebody who's too bored? Oh, the door's locked. I can't get in because, no, they just throw something through the window. Well, that's going to make a lot of noise. Yeah, well, so is the gun that they're going to shoot you with. So they've already thought through that. Oh, so home invaders can get us? Yeah, but maybe you go get a security camera. Oh, then there'll be a record of this. So we imagine, some of our imaginations are pretty vain, but actually some of them aren't. People will bypass a house that's locked because they're lazy. It's like, no, I don't want to break the window. Yeah, there's a chance I'll get caught. You shouldn't even have come up on here. There's people who have cameras now. You're already risky. And so thankfully, a lot of people who are robbers and bad guys are stupid. And they're like, well, door's locked. That means I can't go in. And I'm just like, geez, where'd you learn how to kill people or do evil? So our imaginations are a beautiful thing, and we support them. So that's what AI is coming to support. My AI is called Jesus AI. Jesus told me yesterday, he said, it's going to be referred to as Jesus AI because I read in the paper you can call your assistant, your AI, give them names. You don't have to call them Chat GPT. So the industry is already allowed that people can call them what they want. And so I already know what mine's going to be is Jesus AI. And both Jesus and I will have a conversation with that AI and say, we need some support believing what we believe, because what we believe um, is kind of against a lot of the things that we grew up believing in money, the bottom line, those kind of things. So we need to be reminded in a similar way that we've been reminded within our culture. There's a ton of things, ton of things that remind us to focus on money, focus on the things of this world. So we're going to make a different thing, a different world that says, "Oh, I want you to remember that there's Jesus is with you. I want you to remember that He's orchestrating everything, and He's unseen." And so then I start creating this world that is like unto the world that we all know, one that has TV, but instead it has Jesus TV. We've imagined that, oh, well, if there's regular TV, MSNBC, Fox News, why can't Jesus have a television show? Yeah. And on that show could be maybe Jesus in this mess. So we could talk in a messy way about Jesus because he's kind of sometimes in a mess. And there's going to be more mess. Like Jonathan says, we're going to be flooded with light, a tsunami of light. Maybe Jesus TV can help us sort through those things and anticipate them. And that's my hope, and that's why I'm brought to this again and again. I just love the title, Jesus in This Mess. My life's kind of messy, up inside my head, outside my in my physical realm, lots of mess. What if Jesus is in this mess? What if he's orchestrating things? That comforts my heart, and that feels good. So I'm going to do those things. So I go towards, even I race towards those things. And that's why I have time for Jesus in this mess. Okay, Jonathan, that's it. Unless you had another thing to say, until we meet again next week. And thank you for joining us on Jesus TV.